U.S. tax lawyers have even identified a path through which the Chinese-owned subsidiaries based in Mexico could build full EVs. That means that the U.S. government would actually fund the U.S. invasion. Have you ever heard of the term, the law of unintended consequences? Well, you're going to hear a lot about it because you're living it right now. BYD, Chery, Shanghai Automotive, and mostly their MG product, they're all investing in Mexico. And it's been my experience that the Chinese OEMs can build a plant and get it up and running in 18 months. In comparison, it takes 6 years for a US OEM. Now, here's a warning. I'm not sure if it's socially acceptable. Anyway, we're walking into an incredibly complicated kind of times. And unfortunately, I don't think we've got anybody that's smart enough to understand just what kind of an impact all these things are having. They're certainly not engineers in Washington, and I can guarantee you that we're going to be into some troubles here real soon.
Senator Munro just issued a strong warning, and it's one that addresses a recent event that's critical to Tesla's growth and overall survival. And now Elon Musk, the ever unpredictable entrepreneur and CEO of Tesla, has been busy lately. However, what he's recently cooked up might not be entirely to the benefit of Tesla in the future.
Well, Tesla is looking to put more made-in-America batteries in its cars, but with the help of a Chinese manufacturer, according to a Bloomberg report. We have Yahoo Finance's very own Pras Subramanian to break this down for us. So, Pras, walk us through this development here.
Hey, Rachel. Yeah, so Bloomberg reporting that Tesla is kind of setting up this new battery factory or facility here with a twist, right? So it's going to be at their Giga Nevada factory near Reno. Basically, CATL, the Chinese battery maker, is going to supply them with machinery to make these batteries. And what will happen is Tesla will own the facility, they'll own the machinery, they'll employ all the workers and bear all the costs. And they're only CATL employees that'll be the ones that set up the machinery. So,
hey, boys and girls, there's a fabulous article about EVs that I think you should read for yourself. It's from Bloomberg, and its title is Tesla's Chinese Supply Base in Mexico Stokes Fear in Washington. It's by Amy Stillman and Gabby Coppola. Tesla plans, as we all know, to build a cheaper next-generation electric vehicle at a massive facility in Mexico. We all know that Tesla will be using Chinese suppliers who will be setting up next door, basically, in Mexico. China isn't the only one in the U.S. buying Chinese-owned, Mexican-made parts. Auto parts made in Mexico and exported to the U.S. was about $1.1 billion in 2023. That's up 15%. So why is that? Basically because it makes sense, actually dollars and cents, that Tesla and all the other OEMs that want to tap Chinese very highly organized, highly efficient supply chain. Now, that's not coming from me, that's coming from Dr. Patel. He's the Chief Innovation Officer at CAR, and CAR stands for the Center for Automotive Research. He also said that no manufacturer anywhere in the world is going to miss the opportunity to include the part, basically, and that means the part that's associated with manufacturing in Mexico, that part value proposition. As they try to manage their margins through 2024, it's going to be very, very tough for these guys to do it with the new union contracts and stuff like that. And I think that basically the Chinese industrial companies have moved along quite a bit in the last few years. The Chinese industrial companies are using now 9.31 million square feet of Mexican industrial space. That's up from 1.2 million square feet in 2019. That development came from FINSA, another outside firm that kind of knows what's going on. Well, there's a best of all scenario here, and that's when Joe Biden said that electric vehicles assembled in Mexico can also qualify for the U.S. consumer tax credit of $7,500. That's as long as the OEMs and the tiers limit the amount of battery materials coming from China. The U.S. legal community agrees with the above. With that in mind, the Chinese companies have lit the afterburners, if you like, to build factories and supply the OEMs, and all while meeting the U.S. and Mexican government mandates. Everything is legal. Why aren't the OEMs and the tiers talking about this? Well, that would be fear. If you look around in the U.S., social media is a minefield. This is the perfect time and the perfect way to divide and conquer the U.S. Mexico is now the U.S.'s largest trading partner. And as such, they're exempt from tariffs if they comply with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement trade rules. U.S. tax lawyers have even identified a path through which the Chinese-owned subsidiaries based in Mexico could build full EVs. That means that the U.S. government would actually fund the U.S. invasion. Have you ever heard of the term, the law of unintended consequences? Well, you're going to hear a lot about it because you're living it right now.
Elon Musk recently partnered up with Chinese auto part makers to establish a manufacturing plant in Mexico, specifically to cater to Tesla's production needs. This move, laden with economic opportunities, geopolitical intricacies, and potential ethical concerns, has sparked a heated debate, leaving many wondering if this is a stroke of genius or a recipe for trouble. The latter seems to be Sandy Munro's take, and thus the Tesla bull recently noted that this partnership could be big trouble for Tesla in the future. The car expert cited an article from Bloomberg, which discussed the potential effects this could have on a partnership with Tesla, and how it could affect the US car market negatively. But is this true? Is Elon Musk unintentionally setting Tesla up for a lot of trouble in the future? Join us as we delve into the specific anxieties that Sandy Munro's expressed about this cross-continental collaboration.
Let's also, if you don't mind, Peter, just have a look at another of the big developments for Asian car makers in the West, because it's not just Chinese makers that are trying to crack the West. Vietnamese electric car maker VinFast, for example, has opened its first dealership in the United States. The car lot in North Carolina is the first of 125 that the company wants to open in the US this year. One of its first offerings is the VF8, an electric 5-seat SUV, starting at $46,000. So not cheap. Some wonder if VinFast can make it in the US, since the entire EV industry is under price pressure from the likes of Tesla and, of course, the Chinese manufacturers that we've been talking about. So, Peter Fintel, VinFast sold just 11,000 vehicles in the first half of 2023 compared to Tesla's 889,000. I mean, can it really reach a point where it's competing with the big guys?
I think generally the hurdles for new entrants in the markets, they have risen in the past year. So on one hand, because the big industrial giants, and also I count Tesla now nearly to the establishment, because they produce so many vehicles and they have an established sales support infrastructure now in the market, right? So they're not only producing excellent products, so which the new entrants are competing against, but also they have a working service, sales and support network in place. And we have seen in the past that this ability to talk with consumers, sell the product, service the product, bring spare parts in time and ensure that the product can be repaired. This is a large hurdle. And consumers are not really ready to make discount in this area. So for all new entrants now, the expectations on a good product are high, and also the expectation on good service are high. And this is something that doesn't happen overnight. So these are huge investments and take considerable time.
We've talked about Chinese manufacturers opening Western factories, but VinFast is actually building a factory in the US, isn't it? Are the Americans likely to be rather less concerned about a Vietnamese manufacturer than a Chinese one?
I think this is generally a question of what is the image, the brand image of a new entrant. And clearly every new entrant has a heritage, yes, from the country it's coming from the positioning of its product, and also how it wants to be perceived by clients, and also the price point they are selling at. This is an important part of the mixture. Yeah.
At the heart of this latest venture lies a three-way partnership. First up, Elon Musk, constantly pushing boundaries and redefining the EV landscape, and then Chinese car maker parts and industry giants like CATL and BYD, renowned for their expertise in battery tech and other key components. And then we've got Mexico, eager to attract investments and bolster its manufacturing sector. Now, the proximity of Mexico to the lucrative US market adds a lot of layers of strategic advantage, and it could benefit Tesla in the long run, or so Musk thinks. Hey guys, welcome back to Tesla Tomorrow. To understand the idea behind this partnership, let's take a look at Elon Musk and his point of view. First up, we've got to acknowledge that the vision is compelling. A Tesla factory in Mexico with a lot of activity, its parts not shipped from across continents, but produced right next door by dedicated Chinese suppliers. It promises greater efficiency, reduced transportation costs, and a potentially more robust supply chain, shielding Tesla from disruptions like recent chip shortages. Also, several factors could drive this unique collaboration. On the economic front, Musk is seeing that Mexico offers lower labor costs compared to the US, making production more affordable, and China also already enjoys established relationships with Mexican manufacturers, and this can further streamline the process. From Tesla's point of view, this partnership offers a chance to secure a reliable supply chain closer to home, ensuring a steady flow of components and mitigating future disruptions. However, the equation's not without geopolitical dimension, and this is what Sandy Munro is trying to point out. China is an ambitious player in the EV market, and it may see this partnership as a potential gateway to expand its influence in the US. There are even concerns about technology transfer, with some wary of China gaining access to sensitive Tesla technology through the collaboration. So, what would it be? Should Tesla proceed with this partnership, or should they consider the many risks involved and pull out of the deal? Let's take a look at the many aspects of this topic. But before we do, if you like this type of content, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to keep up to date on everything going on with Tesla. In the high-octane world of electric vehicles, Elon Musk rarely fails to ignite debate. However, this latest partnership has sent shockwaves through the industry, and it's attracted a critical eye from experts. And it's not surprising that Sandy Munro is one of them. Sandy Munro is a renowned automotive engineer and YouTube personality. For those who are unfamiliar with Munro, he's like a car surgeon, wielding an array of tools and a keen mind to go with it, meticulously dissecting vehicles on his YouTube channel, Munro Live. Munro's insightful critiques and analyses have garnered him a loyal following, and when it comes to Musk's Mexican move, he's not mincing words.
BYD, Chery, Shanghai Automotive, and mostly their MG product, they're all investing in Mexico. And it's been my experience that the Chinese OEMs can build a plant and get it up and running in 18 months. In comparison, it takes 6 years. 6 years for a US OEM. So what's the government's answer? Bloomberg reported earlier this month that the Biden administration was going to consider restricting all imports of electric Chinese smart cars, no matter where they're assembled. Well, why would they do that? Well, this is also from Bloomberg. No secret here, the CATL is looking to build a battery factory in Mexico. Why? Well, that's because they own a huge amount of the mines and mining companies that produce critical materials in North and South America. The government's response? We'll renegotiate the US, Mexico, Canada agreement in 2026. And on top of that, we're just going to demand more commitment from Mexico to stop that. Okay, so friends and neighbors, renegotiating in 2 years? Are you kidding me? Who will reimburse Mexico for all the grants to build all the factories that are going up in Mexico? What about the retaliations from China? Do you think any of these bureaucrats will be in the same job when they come back? Will they be the ones that are going to be arguing with the Chinese about, well, if you're not going to let us into the United States, Why should we let you into China? Hey, what's going to happen to GM? What's going to happen to Stellantis? What's going to happen to BMW, Volkswagen, if they aren't allowed to play in the Chinese court? In the olden days, we had a saying for these late to answer to problems, or too late to answer for these problems. And we used to call it locking the barn door after the horse is bolted. So your homework tonight is to look up that quote. Now, here's a warning. I'm not sure if it's socially acceptable. Anyway, we're walking into an incredibly complicated kind of times. And unfortunately, I don't think we've got anybody that's smart enough to understand just what kind of an impact all these things are having. They're certainly not engineers in Washington, and I can guarantee you that we're going to be into some troubles here real soon.
This venture's not without its critics, and Sandy Munro is concerned about a few things. First up, quality. Munro is a champion of meticulous craftsmanship, and right now he harbors doubts about the quality standards of Chinese-made parts. He also fears Tesla's renowned build quality might suffer, potentially tarnishing the brand's image. Likewise, Tesla is risking the supremacy of its technology. Tesla's technological edge is its crown jewel, and Sandy Munro worries about this partnership leading to an unintended transfer of knowledge, even a whisper of it, potentially causing Chinese competition to significantly get a big advantage in the EV race. Imagine China gaining access to the secret source of Tesla's battery tech. It's a recipe for market dominance. Also, Munro isn't blind to the potential job losses that this might entail. With production shifting to Mexico, American workers might fear losing their positions, and it could impact communities and livelihoods. And it's not just about Tesla, but it's about the broader implications for the American industry. We must also mention that this deal coincides with heightened geopolitical tensions between the US and China, prompting concerns that it might further complicate the already sensitive relationship.
I want to talk about the Chinese EV maker BYD. They just became the top car brand in China. Are they going to dominate Tesla in 2024? Is this year their year, BYD?
Well, it could well be. And again, the big picture here, Tesla has just posted a dramatic $25 billion quarter, the biggest in their history, $97 billion for the year. They sold 1.8 million cars, and they have an astonishing 50% control of the American marketplace, more than all other EV sellers combined. But as you point out, Tesla's growth has slowed, 71% in 2021, 51% in 22. This last year, down to 19%. At the same time, BYD's come up like a rocket, selling 70% growth. They did 1.6 million vehicles next year. They're clearly going to pass Tesla this year. So the big smackdown is BYD going to be able to successfully break into the American marketplace where they sell no cars today? They've already launched in Europe. You've got to ask yourself, do Americans and Europeans want to buy a Chinese-made car? I think with the IoT devices in cars today, that's going to be a big push. Yeah. We'll see.
But BYD, their cars are much cheaper than Tesla's, aren't they?
Well, it's exactly right. There's an interesting dynamic here because the average Tesla car is roughly twice the price of BYD's. But BYD is taking that mid-market, low market, from 15,000 to 30,000. They're growing rapidly, not just in China, but starting to move in Southeast Asia, throughout South America, and Mexico. But Tesla has got to do something to ramp up its revenues. And I think the $25,000 car that Tesla's been talking about for some time has to be front and center. Musk said yesterday he will get that out by late 25. He has to execute on that. If he does, it will ramp up sales in US, Europe, and allow them to enter new markets. Elon's already said they may put their next manufacturing plant in India. But this is the smackdown for global EV dominance. It is BYD versus Tesla right now.
The Chinese EV makers are coming in hot, with government support, lower production costs, and a wider range of models catering to different budgets. And they're also catching up on tech. And their home market advantage also gives them a leg up in upstanding local preferences. China has been a big global leader in EV adoption, driven by concerns over air pollution and government support for clean energy. And while Tesla does have a brand image as a premium EV manufacturer, Chinese consumers have also grown strong appetites for EVs. Likewise, China is also becoming a hub for EV innovation and technological developments. And the Chinese EV market is highly competitive, with numerous domestic and international players vying for market share. This makes them a strong rival for Tesla and other EV makers in the US. For instance, China's new EV sales increased by 82% in 2022, accounting for nearly 60% of all EV sales globally. And the interesting thing is that this greatly surpassed that of the US, Norway, and Scandinavian nations that were early adopters of EVs. Even within China's electric car market, the competition's heating up, and BYD has predicted that it will continue to heat up in the next 2 to 3 years. BYD, the Chinese battery and electric car maker, has grown rapidly in recent years, with total vehicle production in 2023 surpassing that of Tesla, and has also proved to be a formidable rival for the automaker. Now, this hot competition in China's electric car market is pushing local automakers to sell vehicles with fancy tech that Tesla doesn't yet offer in the country, and sometimes they offer these at lower prices. No longer are companies competing primarily on driving range. Instead, they now reveal new models at a rapid pace, and they're also piling on variety of features such as in-car projectors, refrigerators, and driver assist, to name a few. So you see, Tesla may be playing into the hands of its competition with this new partnership.
The concentration of what they do is in mainland China, serving a domestic market where they make lots of different EV models, but the principal difference between BYD and Tesla is that it's at a lower price point. And one thing that BYD does that's very different from Tesla is that alongside battery electric cars, full plug-in battery electric, they also do plug-in hybrids, where they sell many of them as well. So you're quite right to point out that in the fourth quarter, the final 3 months of 2023, BYD sold 526,409 fully battery electric cars, most of them in China, whereas Tesla handed over 484,507 globally. But if you aggregate it over the course of the year, BYD is only bigger than Tesla on an annual basis in 2023 if you include plug-in hybrids. But Tesla still sold more battery electric overall that year.
But is the trend clear?
Oh, the trend is clear, and so we knew that this was going to happen going into these fourth quarter deliveries. The question more on Tesla's side is, where are they still growing geographically? And I had Dan Levy of Barclays on the show earlier today saying that, yeah, look, it's possible you can have Tesla continuing to grow in China because it doesn't make the lower end EV. It's used price cuts as a lever, particularly in China, but it's still seen as more of a premium product there than BYD. Then the next question is, what about those early adopters? If you're an early adopter and you were like the first to get into an EV and you've been and gone, what's left over on the demand side?
I do wonder, what about China? Do they love having Tesla there? Not only, making vehicles, it's a higher end product. Give us some backdrop and some history there. Yeah.
It's fair to say that Tesla and indeed Elon Musk directly has kind of had a up and down relationship with China. The Chinese government was incredibly supportive for the construction in the first place of the Shanghai plant. 50% of all of Tesla's vehicles globally are built in China, in Shanghai. So it's clearly an engine room for their production base. And they were very helpful in financing, things like that. There have been some clashes over data, the ownership of Tesla vehicles by government officials, for example. But on the whole, it's clearly an important relationship between the two. The big difference between what's happening in China and what's happening here in North America is there are just many, many different EV makers. There are so many more models out there that you can buy. And as you pointed out at the top of the segment, many of them the average American would never even have heard of, the brand nor the model. And so it's a more fiercely competitive market with many more players.
Does it tell us anything about how an EV market could unfold here in the US? Or are the big three just too entrenched in American society?
Tim, I think I heard you praising your last guest for saying that we don't know what's going to happen in 2024, and that's refreshing. And I think that is the answer for the EV market. There is certainly now a big question mark over demand. You know, in the past, Tesla, as an example, has leaned on the idea that its production was greater than its deliveries because there's always a mad scramble at the end of the quarter where vehicles get caught in transit. But there, you know, if you move past that, and it's relevant with Rivian as well, you do come to the point where you ask, is the demand really there? That will be the question for 2024. And in this market, in particular, North America, you will have seen the news over the holidays about the federal tax credit. The number of EV models in this country that are eligible has basically halved from 24 to just 13. And those rules are now determined by basically, if you want to buy an EV and you want it to be eligible for the full $7,500 federal tax credit, which is a big incentive, right, to buy something if $7,500 off, it depends on the exposure that its components have to Chinese ownership. In other words, if your battery has a component that has ownership by a Chinese company greater than 25%, it won't be eligible for that tax credit. And incentives are really key in this market still.
And while the spectre of tech transfer looms large, raising anxieties about China potentially acquiring valuable Tesla know-how, Sandy Munro has actually acknowledged the potential benefits of this deal. For instance, lower production costs and more robust supply chains could give Tesla a competitive edge and thereby increase its chances of dominating the EV market. So what is the road ahead like? Whether this Tesla-China-Mexico collaboration will be smooth or bumpy remains to be seen. Musk's Mexican gambit with Chinese partners is a multifaceted endeavor, brimming with both promise and peril. And while it does hold the potential to revolutionize Tesla's production model and solidify Mexico's manufacturing prowess, it also raises valid concerns about job security, technology transfer, and geopolitical implications. And while this venture unfolds, its success will be measured not just in economic terms, but also in its ability to navigate these critical challenges and contribute to a sustainable and equitable future for all stakeholders involved. The success of this collaboration hinges on navigating these critical concerns. Therefore, addressing job displacement anxieties through reskilling initiatives and ensuring transparency in technology transfer are crucial if Tesla wants to make anything positive from this deal. Moreover, navigating complex geopolitical landscapes is vital to avoid escalating existing tensions. No doubt this road does seem uncertain, but just like Sandy Munro and other Tesla bulls, we're going to be watching this closely. Stay tuned because it's far from over, and we'll be bringing you all the layers of nuance as they unfold. But what do you think? Is Tesla ready to ruin its well-nurtured dominance, or is it going to keep its head up out of the water? Let us know, and for more exciting updates on Tesla, go ahead and click on this next video on your screen. See you there.